When I'm sailing, I feel like I'm myself. I started sailing when I was in my mid-teens with my father and my family, but I didn't really start getting into the more serious aspects of it till I was maybe 20 or so. Some of these photos bring me back a little bit too. Back when I used to ride and race bicycles, a lot of fun. That is the accident, the leftover motorcycle.
In 1996, Mark was involved in a serious motorcycle accident. A motorist cut him off, basically, and he plowed into a Volkswagen Bug and landed on his back and on his helmet. They put him out and opened his skull and found blood clots that needed to be removed and some damaged brain material that needed to be removed. When Mark was discharged and came back to our home, he had to have care.
I was 25 at the time, just a week before my 26th birthday. The head trauma I suffered and the blood clot that I formed in my leg, it really turned my life upside down. I had a blood clot in my left leg for 27 years before I got any real care for it.
Personally, I've gone from wondering what adventure Mark will undertake next to that of fear that he will not regain a reasonable use of his mind and body. Mark's wound appeared in the summer of 22.
I figured, I'll heal up, it might take a little bit longer because, again, it's blood clot leg. And it never got better. I was on a downward spiral of mobility. I'd have a hard time being on my feet for more than 2 hours at a time. So we went to the doctors, and that got me put into my wound care facility.
So Mark had been suffering from chronic venous insufficiency as a result of his motorcycle accident for about 26 years before I saw him.
What I'll call old school doctors. None of them wanted to touch where the blood clot was. They wanted to put in tubes and increase the blood flow to it. But to me, that's a Band-Aid situation. You're not addressing the issue.
Because he had severe venous claudication, one has to address that. You can do venous ablation. That may look good, but the patient will still have venous claudication, and that will still adversely affect his lifestyle. In this case, because I had learned about the Inari clot retriever procedure, I decided to intervene and make sure that the patient had this procedure. And for that, Dr. Misono did the magic.
When I first encountered Mark, he was not doing so well. He had chronic DVT, which is to say deep venous thrombosis, all throughout his entire leg and extending into the pelvis. He was taken out of society.
To see how dedicated he was and how he wanted to try, he said, I can do something here.
My main goal in this procedure was to create as much real estate in Mark's veins for there to be some normalcy of function. That's something his body didn't know for decades.
Once he explained what he wanted to do, I was extremely hopeful because it was something that the other vascular surgeons wouldn't even think about. He wanted to go to the source of the problem, and that was the blood clot.
It was only after I pulled clot retriever through multiple times that the vein actually started to open up and blood flow was actually reestablished in a way that it probably hadn't been there again for decades.
You could see after a few weeks, things were changing and changing for the better. And Mark could see the difference. He could feel the difference.
I'm happy that I had the procedure done. I think that it's going to give me a new lease on my mobility and potentially on being satisfied with life. It's a godsend. I mean, I really think that I can definitely get back to being myself and doing the things that I love doing on a daily basis.